no matter where any of us are and whether we're really consciously focused on our second act, all of us have to take control of our careers now. We all have to own our paths now and figure out what that means.
Hey, you, are you feeling stuck, desperate for a career change, or thinking of starting a business, but you're just not sure how to make your first move? I'm television producer turned career coach Shannon Russell, and this is the Second Act Success Career Podcast. This is where you will not only get the career advice you've been craving, but you'll get tips from career and business experts, along with inspiration from others who have made a career transition to find second act success. Let's get started. Welcome to the Second Act Success Career Podcast, my friend. It's Shannon, and I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend just part of your day with me. Now, do you ever daydream about quitting your job? How about lounging on the beach, reading a good book while still getting paid? I know I have. Today, we will be talking about how to turn your corporate experience into a consulting career. I am joined by Amy Rasdal, founder of Billable at the Beach. Amy rose to the top of the ranks as a corporate CEO, and then she broke free to find flexibility as a consultant, making even more money than she did in her in-house roles. Now she teaches others how to do the same, and she is going to share her advice with us today. So let me bring in Amy, and we will get started. I am here with Amy Rasdal. Amy, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to chat with you. I love the name of your business, Billable at the Beach. But where are you right now?
I'm in San Diego, so I really am billable at the beach.
Fantastic. I can't wait to get all into it. But let's start back at the beginning. Where did you begin your career?
I refer to myself as a Silicon kid because I grew up in Silicon Valley. So I was always surrounded by technology and startups. And honestly, I didn't really even realize there was anything else. I didn't realize that people's parents did anything other than technology startups. I started out as a software engineer. I wrote code for a few years and then went to business school. Out of business school, I did some time in marketing. I spent time in product development. I lucked my way into medical devices. So life sciences is really big in San Diego. And my long-term career goal at that point, I really wanted to rule the world, right? I wanted to be a technology startup CEO. So I was systematically building all my cross-functional experience, moving higher and higher up the chain to the executive level, getting all that experience. I eventually jumped off and started doing startups, venture funding, bootstrapping, all that kind of stuff. Eventually, I got to a place in one of the startups, as often happens in startups. We were going great guns. We were making so much money. We had so much business. And then suddenly, something in the external environment, the economic environment changed. And I found myself high enough up in the company that I laid myself off. So at least I knew the layoff was coming, but we couldn't afford to pay me anymore. So, I had to cut my own position and paycheck. At that point, I jumped off and started my own consulting business. I didn't really do that intentionally. I was looking for my next job. I wanted the right job, the right company. And I think the most important thing to me then was the right team. By then, I realized what I think a lot of us realize when we're getting to our second and third and even more acts, depending how many we have. People become as important as the company and all of those things. The people and who you work with is so important. And so I was being really careful and choosy. Well, what happened is a consulting project fell into my lap. It was 20 hours a week for 3 months. And I thought, this is perfect. This will pay some of the bills while I'm looking for that really perfect thing, right? We all know that no perfect thing exists, but I'm really trying to be choosy and diligent. And I got 5 or 6 weeks into that consulting project and I said, cancel the job search. This is the life. I'm now a consultant and I have never looked back.
What do you think it was, Amy, about being a consultant and owning your own business that made you want to continue down that path?
The things that I really loved about having my own business, and I know that you've made a similar kind of transition, honestly, freedom, flexibility, control, interesting work, better pay. So I think one of the mistakes that people sometimes think having your own consulting business or maybe having your own business is that if you're going to have all these great lifestyle opportunities, that you have to give up pay. And you don't. You can decide and you can actually make more money than you were making at your corporate job.
Very true. I agree. Well, how did you grow consulting into a full blown business?
I'm a big believer in serendipity. Things kind of fall into place, but we always really have to have our eyes open and be paying attention so that we can take advantage of the serendipity that comes along, right? That consulting project, I wasn't looking to be a consultant. It literally fell into my lap, and I thought, well, why not? It seems like the perfect thing. And that changed the whole trajectory of my career. And then what started happening is everyone could see that I was so energized and loving having my own consulting business that they would say, Amy, I've been thinking about starting my own consulting business. Could we talk? I was really good at getting things done, implementation and execution. So, in my consulting business, I was doing a lot of startup work, and I am really the right hand man of that visionary genius startup who couldn't actually do anything without someone like me. So, I'm that doer. I lease the building, I hire the team, I help raise the money, I do all that stuff. I love the doing, and I'm super organized.
Okay, so you're there helping this startup visionary actually take an idea across the finish line. And now others are seeing the value that you bring and they're wanting your advice as well.
My friend would say, "Hey, can we talk?" And I would think, well, okay, how can I be useful? How can I serve my friend? What do I love? What do I hate? What do I wish I would have known? I was starting to accumulate a body of material because I really was thinking, how can I help my friend start this business? And then one of the things that you realize if you have a consulting business is that I wasn't selling medical devices anymore. I'm selling my time. Now, it doesn't matter if you're billing by the hour or the project or retainer, I'm still selling my time as a consultant, and it's super valuable. So I learned that I had to hold myself accountable for all of my hours. So as these people started to be my brother's wife's sister's best friend's college roommate, it became really difficult to track that time to revenue.
So you found yourself getting busier, helping others launch their own consulting businesses. And that is how Billable at the Beach was born.
At this point, I'm doing billable at the beach full time and not doing hands on consulting anymore. It started out 10 or 15 years ago as an offline one on one program. Now I've moved it all online. I have an online course, I have group coaching. I can take it from meeting at Starbucks with people here in San Diego to really having a global reach. My second acts have just been really more a series of little steps.
Could you have ever imagined back when you were trying to climb the ladder in Silicon Valley and that whole corporate world that you would be running a business like this and helping other people to create their own businesses?
No. And what's interesting is that I have a daughter now who's in her second year of college. So, I'm talking to her about her career. And no, because I really thought I was going to rule the world as a startup CEO. But now what I've realized is that I'm not ruling the world, but I'm really ruling my world. And now I'm helping other people who want to do the same thing. So I'm not running a $500 million corporation, but I'm really able to help so many other people determine what they want their careers to look like. And I love that.
And you have your balance. It's on your terms. So think about the stress level of a CEO running a huge company like that and you being your own CEO running your business. Like there's no comparison.
A really good friend of mine finally got his CEO title, and I was so excited for him, but I felt not the slightest bit of remorse. That wasn't me. I felt like, Oh, thank goodness that's not me. I remember early in my corporate career, long before I had kids, I remember a very distinct experience. It was just a few years into the corporate world, and our CFO was a woman, and she was amazing. She had 2 tiny little boys at home, and I saw her in the lobby of the company with her suitcase on October 30th. And I said, "Oh, where are you off to?" She said, "Oh, we have this big disaster. I have to fly to Washington, D.C. and meet with the FDA." And I thought, "Oh, she's gonna miss Halloween with her little boys." And even though I was still pretty young at that time, I've never forgotten that kind of, like, sick feeling in my stomach. And at that moment, I thought, "I don't ever wanna do that." And now that I have one in college, I realize how fast it goes. I've had my own consulting business the whole time of having kids, and it hasn't always been easy to make all those choices, but they've been mine to make. And that's been everything.
Everything. Yeah. I've mentioned this on the show before, but I was working in television and it was my first son's first birthday that I missed because I was shooting in South by Southwest in Texas. And I remember sobbing and sobbing. And everyone said he's not going to remember, but it was just to me the start of what I would have to miss down the road.
Yeah.
And that was I was already thinking, I don't know if this is me, these hours is travel and having a family. And it was soon afterwards that I switched and when I had my second and said, nope, I want to be more present and I don't want to feel like I'm choosing work over the kids. And sometimes working in these high profile positions like you had and I had, you don't have the choice. You have to go where they want you to go and you have to work the hours that they want. And I think being a business owner and a mom is just the most flexibility that you can have. And we work long hours and we deal with our clients. I
Yes.
think there's more of a balance than when you're reporting to the board or the corporate
Well, and
higher up.
and just having that choice, but I think the important thing is you don't have to give up your career, and you don't have to trade whatever it is that's important to you, impact, satisfaction, pay, flexibility. You can choose. I mean, I laugh. I've done conference calls from Disneyland. I can tell you, like, you buy your child one of those giant lollipops, and you go down in a little corner restaurant, not right at lunchtime, and, like, you break the mommy rules and you just give them that giant lollipop that's gonna give you 40 minutes, and
Oh,
but those stories are so fun. But again, it's still a great career. And for me, instead of having that C-suite position at the corporation, I go in there as a consultant. And they actually listen to me much more now as a consultant than they did when I was the vice president of operations.
hey there, my friend. Shannon here, just popping in quickly because I'm wondering, is this episode getting you thinking? Are you starting to come up with ideas for your second act? Maybe it's changing careers, writing a book, starting a business. Whatever it is, I am here to help. You can book a free discovery call with me so that we can chat about your next steps. So head over to secondactsuccess.co/coaching. Now let's get back to the episode. You had the experience. You worked in those companies. You ruled the
Yes.
world for as long as you wanted to rule it,
Yes.
right? And then you had that experience, and then being hired as a consultant was something you weren't expecting. And then you're like, oh, so now I can work and get paid using my experience that I've taken from the corporate world. And I find that so interesting because when I work with my clients as a career coach, I say, okay, well, let's take that experience you've had because, our life is a resume. It's not just you use it up to this point and then you change jobs and all of that goes away. No, it's just still a part of you. And now you get to use that in a different way. I could have left television and become a consultant or opened a production company. I switched completely into, a different business, two businesses now, but I could have done it a different way, but I still use my skills and experience in growing my companies. So I find it really interesting and I do want to get into what a consultant really is because I feel like people throw that around, what is the definition of a consultant to you and kind of what you see it as?
Yeah, so I think everyone has a slightly different version, and a consultant is going in and helping a company. In my case, I'm not a career coach. I help people do something very specific, but I think that when we find that perfect intersection that uses the skill sets that we're the best at and that we really have the experience in, what we love to do, and what the market will pay for. And to the extent that we can maximize those things. For me, I help people do consulting for oftentimes the corporations that they left. So, in sometimes it's easier to think about what a consultant's not. I think it's different than a coach, and this is just kind of the way I view it. So, you can give me your view of a coach too, since you do more of that. A coach doesn't do the work, they help you figure out how to do the work. So, consulting does involve some aspects of that, but usually a consultant goes in and does some of the work to get started. For me, a consultant is a superhero with a superpower making super pay. It's not for me fractional work. That to me is a part-time job. Now might be a very high level part-time job, but to me superhero, superpower, super pay, you go in, you fill a gap, you do a special project. I did a lot of sort of crisis work. So a company was trying to get a new product out the door and it just wasn't happening. I'm very good at coming in and figuring out what's going on. Is it the technology? Is it the market? Is it the resources? Just really digging in and getting my hands really into the muck and figuring out what's going on. And I believe that a consultant's job is to get in there and do that 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 months and then get out.
Okay.
You're not supposed to stay there and take on operational day to day activities over the long term. You may do that for a while to get the systems, the procedures, the team, all the stuff in place and really get it into a fine tuned machine. But then your job is to go away.
Sometimes when you're in a project, you're so in the thick of it that having a consultant come in is really going to help see maybe that broken piece that the employees can't see.
Yes, or bring a skill set that doesn't exist. Or maybe there's a skill set that just needs to come in for a shorter period of time and then get out, but you're not supposed to stay there. A really interesting thing is becoming indispensable to day to day operations is sort of a death knell for a consultant. So it sounds really strange, but I have and now teach specific strategies to prevent job offers. Nothing ends a good consulting relationship faster than a job offer. Because if you turn it down, then you're probably done with that client because they've proposed to you and you've turned it down and you've sort of hurt their feelings in a way, so it changes your relationship. You need to prevent that proposal. And if you take it, then all that freedom, flexibility, superhero, superpower, super pay, then you end up in a job. And I have watched so many of my consultant friends. It's so easy to be attracted to that because it feels like stability.
But then you're
You're,
back to where you started,
you're
the thing that
exact,
you're trying to get away from.
exactly. It's a magnetic pull. As soon as I get them in my program, we immediately launch into the top 10 things to know. And one of those is it's counterintuitive to think prevent job offers.
Right.
I've spent my whole life trying to find good jobs. That seems crazy, but no. And I have specific strategies to prevent that. And it sounds crazy, but now it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? Once I started talking about it, you said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like you're right back where you didn't want to be in that pit.
And as a consultant, you're making more than that person who is staff. You've got the flexibility and you're getting your views across. You're being respected and heard a little bit more than if you were just another team member. When you began your consulting career, you got your first offer to do your first consulting job. Were you just saying, I want to consult? Here's all of my skills of what I did in corporate and kind of looking for work that way? Or was it more word of mouth?
I made all the mistakes, Shannon. I made all the mistakes, right? And now that I've worked with so many people, I see people making the same mistakes over and over again because it's not necessarily intuitive. The first project fell into my lap. And then I had done like you did in TV. I had worked with a lot of people and done really good work for a long time. So when people heard I was available, they said, "Ooh, I might have a project." So for the first couple years, I was busy. I had enough projects without doing anything, and that was one of my biggest mistakes. Here I've talked about all my business knowledge. I went to a fancy business school. I was a startup CEO. I didn't treat my business like a business in the early days. Now, one of the other things that I tell my people is look, even if the projects come easily at first, because people that you know are going to hear about you, you start networking, marketing, and business development from the very first day. Never let a day go by without doing something toward networking, marketing, and business development. Because here's what happened, Shannon. I'm 2 or 3 years in. I've worked off what I now realize was the pent up demand of all the people that already knew me. But once I had done all those projects, I needed to start getting projects with new people. I just thought, oh man, this is great. The money's just coming in. I was water skiing every morning. I was being billable at the beach, right? It was awesome. But you know what? It's not sustainable. So my pipeline's starting to dry up. The dry spells are starting to stretch out. And guess when that happened? I'm pregnant with my first child. So
Of course.
now it's not just the two of us adults kind of freewheeling it. I buckled down. I had the knowledge and I really treated it like a business.
Billable at the Beach is, first off, such an amazing name. That is the dream, right? To be able to work from anywhere. And with the pandemic, that's what it taught us too, that we were able to.
I am very practical. And I believe that anyone can do this. There's nothing special about me. Anyone can do this. Now, I do say this really isn't for brand new grads. You really do have to have some solid experience before, because people hire you as a consultant because you've been doing what you do for a long time and you're good at it. They really want you to come in and hit the ground running. So you have to have spent some time to develop those superpowers. But I help people come in and get started. I'm very focused on revenue generation. I try to get people in on the shortest path to revenue. So a lot of people get all excited and they think, oh, I'm starting my own business. I need logos and websites and all this stuff. No, I stop right there. The first thing that we're going to do is land a project and get a check in the bank. You don't need a business name. You don't need a website. You don't need a logo. You don't need any of that stuff. And I've developed, I call it my 3 action steps to generate revenue now. You can have all the logos and websites, and you can open a shop or a restaurant, but until people come in and start giving you money, I don't believe that you have a business. You have a potentially very expensive hobby,
Yes.
right? And so once you actually start doing billable work, you get that confidence. For anyone who suffers from imposter syndrome, now you are a consultant. That first check in the bank, there's something magic about the confidence that builds.
Yeah.
Once we start putting those checks in the bank, more projects, more money, somehow those things find their way to us. So, really, really important. The 3 action steps: land a project, get a check in the bank. And then while we're doing that, we do all those business building things. So, I'm here to tell everyone right now, you really can do it while you're doing your billable work. It sounds overwhelming. It really is just simple steps.
Amy, this is so good because you're right. Everything you said, I'm just nodding my head. I can remember my first coaching client, and it's that confidence to be like, I want to go get 20 more. So, absolutely. I think what you're teaching is brilliant. Let's talk about your book then, Land a Consulting Project Now.
In this online world and going global, it's been amazing, but there's a lot of noise out there. And so I'm always trying to figure out how to reach people. So I did a book. I tried to weave in stories of my own, of other people to make it interesting. I tried to make it a little bit funny, as much as I could. It really does give the A to Z everything that you need in a short, quick, easy version. I have a woman who was in the story and she came into my program. She had her first child and her goal was to be out of the corporate world by the time he was a year old. And within 6 months, she had doubled her corporate salary. No matter where any of us are and whether we're really consciously focused on our second act, all of us have to take control of our careers now. We all have to own our paths now and figure out what that means. I sometimes have people in my programs who do consulting for a while and decide for whatever reason to take a corporate job again. And that's also fine. People go in and out. We have seasons.
Taking your initiative and your skill set and creating something that you can hold the reins to is very, very smart in this day and age. All right, it's time for our 5 fast cues of the week. Here we go. Name one thing that these different chapters in your life have taught you.
For me, I think it's faith. And I'm not talking about religion at all here. It's really faith in myself, faith in the process, faith in other people, faith in my relationships, faith that if I am willing to do the work, have a little perseverance, take a little risk, that I really can make it work. And I have faith that there's nothing special about me and that really anyone who wants to do this and take control of it, anyone really can. I really believe that. I have faith in all of you.
Would you recommend taking a leap into a big life change to your best friend?
If you can get yourself in whatever support system you need and the mindset to do that, I say fantastic. But I also believe that big leaps can be accomplished by taking baby steps. So many people are overwhelmed and scared by the big leap. So I say take a step. Take a step tomorrow, take a step next week, take another step the next day or the next week or the next month. The first step is the hardest. And if you can just take those baby steps, you can get there.
What is one piece of advice that you can give to someone who is ready to start their second act today?
You can do it. That's all I want to say. You can.
So, what does the next act look like for you, Amy?
I really aspire to be a professional philanthropist. So, to achieve some point in time where I don't need to work for money anymore, there's so many causes and things out there. A number of years ago, I wanted to go to medical school and start a free clinic for women and children with HIV. This was before there were effective treatments. I've been around for a while. And then I live in San Diego where there's a lot of military presence, and it really breaks my heart to see so many homeless veterans. And most recently, with my little guy being identified as having dyslexia, I'm seeing really a social justice crisis in our country on literacy. And it's really affecting lower socioeconomic ranges and people of color significantly more. So that's my current philanthropic interest is trying to see what we can do about that.
I feel like you'll be there and be able to do that full time very
Someday,
soon.
right?
All right. So, where can my audience connect with you and learn more about Billable at the Beach and follow the goodness that you're doing?
If you just Google Billable at the Beach, you'll run across me and my website. I have the 3 action steps to generate revenue now that work. It's a very simple process. That's the shortest path to being billable is a free email course that you can grab on my website. I have my book that you can get in print or electronic or audio. And then social media wise, my biggest place, because I kind of deal with corporate folks, is LinkedIn.
Oh, that's great, Amy. I'm going to link to everything in the show notes so everyone has easy access. And I just thank you so much. This was such a lovely conversation and so nice to hear about your journey. And I just congratulate you on the book and all of your success.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Shannon.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments, and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.